We continue the dwellers on the Nile, the life, history, religion, and literature of the ancient Egyptians by E.A. Wallis Budge with Chapter 6, Egyptian Writing, Hieroglyphic, Hieratic, Demotic, and Coptic. The inscribed objects of the late Neolithic period, which have come down to us, show that the Egyptians were able to cut on stone and wood a considerable number of the pictorial characters that were used in the writing in the dynastic period and that are commonly called hieroglyphics. The objects represented by them are all native, African, which shows that the characters were not of foreign origin, but up to the present it has not been proved that the pre-dynastic Egyptians were acquainted with the art of writing as we understand it. They could not construct connected sentences. This art they acquired early in the dynastic period, and it is probable that they did so under the influence of some Asiatic or European people. On the other hand, it is allowable to think that the Egyptians themselves turned their pictographs into a syllabary, for they soon found that they wanted to use combinations of them solely for the sounds of the words that they actually represented, without any regard to the actual objects that they represented. But they went further than this, for they simplified several of the values of the signs in their syllabary and gave them alphabetic values. Well, phonetic, really, not alphabetic, because alphabetic implies possible different sounds with the same things. The same sound was made every time. Though they never used them, as letters of the alphabet were used by the Persians in the time of Darius I, and are used by modern nations in Europe, and down to the latest times in which the hieroglyphic writing was used. The inscriptions contain both syllabic and alphabetic characters. The Egyptians were able to retain the pictorial forms of the characters they used in writing, because they found in abundance in their own country a material on which they could be written easily, namely papyrus. The Sumerians and Babylonians, whose writing was originally pictographic, had no such vegetable material in Mesopotamia, and they therefore made use of clay. But their scribes soon found that it was difficult to draw figures of animals and round or curved objects on this material, and little by little the pictorial forms of the characters displayed, and then was invented the cuneiform system of writing, which is so called because each sign is composed of a series of wedge-shaped characters. Thus, a circle, which represented the sun, would be composed of, like 4 wedges in a circle or something like this, and became a star, and became a wedge version of the star where you had this through this, as where you see the wedge and all points coming out. But from first to last, the Egyptians represented the sun by and the star by. The Egyptian might have used the Nile mud, as the Sumerian used clay, but the former has not the tendency of the latter, and it is far less compact. Kinds of writing. In Egyptian, writing is known in 3 forms: hieroglyphic, hieratic, and demotic. The oldest form is pictographic or hieroglyphic. Well, pictographs are actually something different, because hieroglyphics actually, you're forming sounds, and it's not just, a vulture means a vulture, And it remained in use from the late Neolithic period until the early centuries of the Christian era. The dynastic Egyptians said that it was invented by Thoth, the scribes of the entities, and they described as Madu-Nature, the words of the entity, and in their opinion, it always possessed a specially sacred character. Hieroglyphics were written in horizontal lines or in columns, and a text may begin either on the right or left-hand side of the page. It can be read top to bottom, bottom to top. There is indications of how you're supposed to read, like how the characters are facing, then it's, but if they're facing in horizontal lines, the beginning of the right-hand side of the page, the beginning on the left-hand side of the page, okay. In columns, and of course, which order the columns form, which order is the characters facing. In Hieratic, the cursive hieroglyphic writing, we have only the most salient features of the hieroglyphs preserved, as the following examples from The Tale of the Two Brothers shows. Hieratic writing could be written more quickly than hieroglyphic, and was employed in writing copies of business documents and letters, and drafts of inscriptions that were to be cut in stone, and pupils in the temple schools were taught to read it easily and to become experts in writing it by making copies of literary and religious texts. Under the Middle Kingdom, chapters from the Pyramid text and chapters from the latter Book of the Dead, i.e. the chapters of Coming Forth by Day, were written in hieratic on the insides and outsides of coffins. Medical and mathematical papyri. The Ebers, written in bold hieratic characters. Under the New Kingdom, copies of extracts from the Book of the Dead were written in hieratic, sometimes the whole of its chapters, as in the papyrus of Princess Nesit-Tashru. The following is an example of a specimen of hieratic writing taken from the D'Orbigny Papyrus in the British Museum, Birch Select Papyri Part 2, Plates 11 and 12, together with a transcript of it into hieroglyphics, which will enable the reader to compare the two writings. The hieratic text is written from right to left, but the hieroglyphics must be read from left to right. And so, see, we have things kind of all merged in there, but hieratic is usually written in horizontal lines, which are to be read from right to left, but in several papyri of the Middle Kingdom, the texts are written in short columns. Demotic are enchorial. The third form of Egyptian writing is an abbreviated and conventionalized form of hieratic that was much used by business folk and lawyers. But copies of several literary works, funerary compositions, and priestly edicts were written in this script. Every hieroglyph or pictograph could be used to represent a sound or to express an idea. Some don't have sounds. That's sort of the difference between hieroglyphic, because a lot of it's not, it's not entirely pictographic. Some of it's phonetic, but then you can have determinatives at the end. Every hieroglyph or pictograph could be used to represent a sound or to express an idea. It can be either ideographic or phonetic. Phonetic characters may be either syllabic or alphabetic. Ideographs are to be interpreted, sometimes literally and sometimes symbolically. Thus, you see a column with, 4 things sticking out in between the, is a wall, because they had patched walls with things stuck in them, and, that's what they're showing. But it may be used as a symbol of a building. The revolt is a seal, but it may be used as a symbol of something sealed up, i.e. treasure. Ideographs that have more than one phonetic value are called polyphones, and different ideographs that have similar values are called homophones. So, long as the Egyptians used pictographs, pure and simple, the meaning of each character was easily understood. Thus, in the title, Hamdatcher, Hum means servant, and Datcher means Most people are going to say God, but it's not that simple. So we have servant of the god, i.e. priest, and oft-repeated formula, Sudahat. The first sign means king, the second means giver, and the third means gift, our funerary offering. And the meaning, the king gives a gift, is obvious, but when the Egyptians began to spell their words with alphabetic signs and syllabic signs, they found it necessary to indicate in some way the meaning and even the sounds of many of the words so written. This they did by adding to the words signs we call determinatives. Thus, the word for lily, Sashin, is determined by a picture of the flower itself. You know, at the end, you have the, and chariot is determined by the picture of a chariot. These are examples of determinatives. You know, a single double set of wheels and a thing to hold that you put on the horse. These are examples of determinatives that determine a single species, but there is a large class of general determinatives. You know, like the 2 feet walking thing. The legs, Achur is the determinative of God, and the snake of goddess. Well, actually, there's some snake symbols with the female, with the male, that aren't there. The symbol of the heavens with the streams of water. How many streams of water you got? You know, 6 streams of water coming down. You know, 6 being the macrocosm symbol in some cultures, but i.e. water falling down from the sky of rain, cloud, dew, etc. These few examples will illustrate the use of determinative signs. Kbahu, cold water, and you have 2 determinatives. Suksur, to overthrow, and you have a guy hanging down. Well, the water had the series of water, and it had a jug, right? Hob, to send, it just has the walking feet. Aptapa, but it has goose at the end, but maybe the colored head means that you don't pronounce it. Apad, goose or duck. Ses, a wooden bolt. Now you see like a kind of stick thing there. Mahah, air, wind, so you have the sail by it. The Egyptian alphabetic characters, well, the main phonetic characters, actually, I'd say with the hand you have a duh. The L is the lion shape, and the mouth is the R. Ma is the secondary M there. Th is that T. Cha is the secondary KH. So K and Ch. And you also have Kaz, but the twisted rope is a W. E is double reeds and so long, the A with the line over it, of course, ah, and TCH, we'd have a dj, and we have a tj, 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 tj. You know, that's the difference between the tongue thing and the snake thing. But to use following extracts from the text, they'll illustrate the use of ideographs, alphabetic characters, and determinatives in the inscriptions. Habu. Wait, didn't he just say that word is... Habu Humph Ra Yibhat. Send me His Majesty to Yibat. Ra Yint Nabanks Hun Na Anksu, to bring a Lord of Life and a coffer of the Living One. Na Aaf Na Bunbunt, with its cover, with pyramidation, precious. Ships Na Amurn Conifer Newt August, for the Merenra pyramid called Conifer the Royal. Haub Humph Vra Ankbu, send me His Majesty to Abu Rayint Matj Mat Rayint Matj Vortu Hama Subject, to bring a granite door and its libation slab